Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Gayle, and today this video is going to focus on our sacrum. The sacrum is a triangular shaped bone at the base of our spine between our L5 and our coccyx. It's like a focal point for our body, and it literally translates into sacred bone. So it's kind of like a fulcrum between our upper and lower body, and also it's at the center of our pelvis in the back. So where the sacrum and the iliac, the hip bones, meet is called the sacroiliac joint. And it's often referred to as the SI joint. And a lot of you have probably heard of that, or maybe felt like you had some SI pain. And so what we're going to do in this video is we're going to work on being aware of the relationship of our pelvis to the rest of our body. We're going to strengthen the surrounding muscles like the glutes and the hamstrings and the quads and the back muscles and some of the core muscles. And even though we're targeting those muscles, we're actually working a lot more than just those muscles. Well, some of the strongest ligaments in our body actually are attached to the sacrum and help to support it. So there really should be very little movement in the sacrum. And the only time your sacrum could really be out of joint is either if your ligaments have become really loose from either hormones or overstretching, or you had like a strong impact, like a car accident, to cause a misalignment. So a lot of times the pain that we're feeling may really just be a muscular imbalance. So hope you feel good after watching this video, and try and have a strap, some kind of blanket or socks, and a block or some books or something like that for this practice. So take whatever time you need to get those props, and we'll get started in a moment. Let's start on our backs and just notice like how the pelvic tilt affects our whole spine. So first bring your feet up right over your hips in a place where you can really relax. Let your arms come open out to the side. And instead of trying to do anything, just let your body relax. And notice how your back feels on the floor, how your spine feels. And bend your knees and shift the bottom part of your sacrum where it connects to the tailbone forward and down, and notice how your back lifts and creates an arch. And then alternately lift the tailbone up, strengthen the top of the flat long shape of the sacrum down, and notice how your back flattens and you get a little bit of lift underneath your hips. And just go back and forth, nice and slowly, feeling that tilt of the pelvis, the tilt of the sacrum, and how it affects your whole spine, how it feels for you. And then after that movement, just again, just let your whole back relax. Bring your legs up in the air and try and balance your feet right over your hips. So maybe there's like just a little bit of light, very teeny light space underneath your pelvis, but it may be different for everyone. And then we're going to do an exercise to create a little space between L5, our lowest lumbar vertebrae, and the sacrum. So start by rotating your inner thighs and flexing your feet, pulling your toes towards your belly, and then look towards your belly, even though you won't see it. But the idea here is to lengthen the back of your neck and to flatten your pelvis, your sacrum, as much as possible right now. Keep pushing up through the heels of your feet, and then bring your arms up without pulling your shoulders off the floor. Just bring your arms up, flex your hands, and externally rotate the shoulders. So your elbows face your knees, your hands face your knees, pushing up through the heels of the hands. And then keep that flexation of the wrists And bring your hands over your head to the floor. And keep looking at your belly. Keep pulling your toes down, pushing your heels up, pushing out through the heels of your hands, letting your shoulders really stretch by your ears. And focusing on taking some nice, deep, slow, even breaths. And so I'm not going to really count for you. I'm just going to let you breathe nice and slowly and evenly at your own pace. And I'm just going to keep reminding you of things that you might end up relaxing. So internal rotation of the thighs, toes pointing down, heels pressing up. Look towards your belly to elongate the back of your neck. Push out through the heels of your hands. Find that big stretch in your low back. Stretch through your whole body, a whole fascial train. The superior back line of your body should feel a nice long stretch. So that would be from the soles of your feet all the way up your back and all the way up to the crown of your head. And then to come out, we're going to come out very slowly. So slowly take your right hand to your belly, and then slowly take your left hand to your belly. Slowly bend your right knee. So the idea is we're trying to keep the pelvis very still. And bend your left knee. Bring your knee down. And just again, relax. Notice if you feel a little extra sense of ease in your low back, maybe a little extra space. And place your feet about hip distance apart. Walk your feet a little bit away from your hips. Take your arms, rest your arms by your sides, and then activate your feet by pushing them into the floor. Squeeze your glutes and lift your hips up into like this halfway bridge. So really push down through your feet, hug in through the glutes, isometrically drag your heels towards your hips, and slowly lower down. Bring your right leg up in the air. We're going to stretch the hamstrings a little bit first. And push your leg into your hands, find some resistance, and then just lift and lower your heel. Just moving nice and slowly, feeling a stretch or a lengthening at the top when your foot is forward, and a relaxing, a loosening, letting go when your heel goes down. And just go back and forth a couple of times. To get more length, you bring your knee a little closer to your chest. If that's too much for you, then you bring your knee a little further away. So it's going to be different for everyone. Stretch your left leg out. Push your right foot forward. Push your hamstring into your hands. Resist. And then back off just enough that there's a sense of relaxation in your neck and shoulders. But you're feeling some kind of activity going on in your hamstring, kind of lengthening action. Use your breath here to help to calm your nervous system. And release your hands. Let your leg float down. Notice the different feeling in both legs. I'll do it, same thing on the left leg. So bring the right foot in, lift up the left leg, interlace your fingers on the back of your thigh. Push your leg into your hands, finding resistance. And then keeping some of that resistance, begin to lift and lower your heel. Just nice, smooth, steady motions. Just try not to go too quickly, but find a pace that feels comfortable and relaxing for you, and where you feel a stretch at the end range of motion when your foot is forward. And keep your foot forward, stretch your right leg out. Find the correct position, or what works for you today, position of your knee, either closer to your chest for a bigger stretch or further away for less of a stretch. So you want to be able to have a feeling of engagement and relaxing. So we're doing an active stretch. Release your hands, lower your leg down. Notice that sensation in the back of your legs, a little bit of, maybe more energy, more openness. And bring your feet back to the floor with your feet about a foot or foot and a half away from your hips. Draw the top of your sacrum toward the floor so the tailbone lifts a little bit, and press into your feet, squeeze the glutes, lift your hips up. Keep pressing into the floor and isometrically drag your heels towards your hips. So there's an attempt at movement towards your hips, but your feet don't actually move. You should feel the hamstrings engaging and the glutes engaging. And slowly lower down. Take a big breath in here and a big breath out. We'll do it again. So push into your feet, lift the hips up. Isometrically drag your heels towards your hips or your shoulders. Hold here for just a few more breaths. And slowly lower down. Now take your block and use this kind of second side of the block. Place it in between your thighs, just above your knees, and squeeze into the block. So you feel your inner thigh muscles, your adductor muscles engage. And again, press into your feet, lift the hips up, maybe lift the front of your feet up. Squeeze the glutes. Squeeze the block. Hover here for one more breath. And lower down. We'll do that again. So squeeze the block. Press into your feet, lift the hips. Maybe lift the top of the feet. Maybe isometrically drag your heels towards your shoulders, your hips. Keep squeezing the block. Don't squeeze so much that you feel your neck tensing up. Let your neck be nice and relaxed. But feel those muscles, the glutes, the legs working, and slowly lower down. Well, now move the block out of the way, but take your strap, and you want to make a loop in the strap. So you can pause the video if you need time to make the loop. And then we're going to place the strap around the thighs, just above the knees, making sure that the buckle is not pressing into your flesh, and lengthening the strap just enough so that when you push out, your elbows or your knees are about hip height, hip distance apart, sorry. And again, bring your feet a little bit away from your hips. And this time, instead of squeezing inward, we're going to press outward. So it'll be similar idea, engaging the glutes, but this time it's going to feel a little bit different because we're pressing out. So press out into the strap. Lift up through your heels if you want. Think of a little bit of a posterior tilt to the pelvis, so you're not dropping the hips, but just keeping some effort to keep them lifted away from the floor. And slowly lower down. Big breath in, and big breath out. And we'll do that again. So press out into the strap, press down into your feet. Squeeze the glutes, feel the glutes working as you lift your hips up. Maybe lift the top of the feet, maybe drag your heels towards your hips. And again, slowly lower down. You can take the strap off your legs. And then we'll just do a little bit of windshield wiper side to side. So bring your feet apart on the mat and just slowly lower your knees all the way to the right and then all the way to the left and back and forth. A couple more times. Come back to center. I'm going to do one more thing to work the hamstrings. So I'm going to fold my mat so I have some room here. So either go to the edge of your mat or fold your mat. Put on some socks, or you can use a blanket. And we're going to do some slides, some glute slides. So lie on your back, stretch your legs out, and press into your heels. Lift your hips, pull the blanket in, lift the hips up, and see if you can keep your hips as high as possible as you stretch the blanket or your feet away. Lower down. Take a little rest, and we'll do this 3 more times. So squeeze the glutes, lift your hips up, slide your feet in, lift up through the hips, and slowly as you can, start to slide the feet out. Lowering the hips down. Take a little rest. And again, squeeze your legs, squeeze the glutes, lift the hips up, drag the heels in, lift up a little higher, and slowly glide out. Ooh, this is really getting to me. I don't know about you guys. So let's do it one more time. Adjust your blanket if you need to, like I did. Then lift up. Pull those heels in, lift the hips up, slowly lower down. Oh, good, it's over. Hug your knees into your chest, gently rock around on your hips. And we'll meet in tabletop. Come onto your hands and knees. And just begin to move however you want to move. Slide your hips from side to side. Glide around. Don't really think too much about the movement. And keeping your belly lifted so that you're not sagging, you're not doing an anterior tilt of the sacrum, and you're not over rounding the back, but just something that feels good to you, kind of neutral-ish. And hold that position. So when you stretch your leg back, don't let your back dump. Keep a little lift and stretch out through your left heel. Feel your legs engaged. Feel maybe a nice gentle stretch. And then keeping that engagement, keeping the pelvis the way it is right now, lift your leg up. And begin to point and flex your foot. Keeping again the pelvis nice and still, reach your right arm forward. And just hold here, finding a nice steady balance. Trying to notice the pelvis, if it's more or less neutral, meaning not arched or rounded, but more or less neutral. And lower your arm and leg down. We'll do the same thing other side. So stretch out through the right heel. Keep that little lift in your spine. Lift your leg up into resistance and float your left arm forward. And you can point and flex your back foot. Again, trying to keep a stillness in the sacrum. And lower your arm and leg down. Send your hips back to your heels for child's pose. Reach your arms forward. And let your whole back relax and stretch. And when we do like a cat-cow movement with our spine, we're moving the sacrum, the position of the sacrum. So in your inhale, round up, tailbones pointing down. And as you exhale, lift the hips up, tailbone pointing up. So inhale, bottom of the sacrum pointing down, come forward. Exhale, bottom of the sacrum lifting up. Another way to think of it is inhale, top of the sacrum lifts. Exhale, top of the sacrum lowers. A couple more times. Moving nice and slow. And next time you're in child's pose, stay in child's pose. Let your head rest on the floor. Take some nice, slow, relaxing breaths here. And start to slide your hands forward. Come onto your belly. Stretch your arms forward, your toes back. And think of finding length from your fingertips to your toes. Not straining so much that you create tension, but just creating more of a sense of ease as you find that length. Start to activate your core by a little bit of posterior tilt, drawing your tailbone towards your heels a little bit, starting to activate the glutes, a little bit of lift through your belly. And keep that, lift your arms and legs up. And we'll hold here, feeling those back muscles working. And slowly lower down. We're going to do that 4 more times. So stretch out through the fingers. Gauge your deeper core muscles and then inhale, lift. Try not to sacrifice too much length as you lift. So your low back should feel pretty good here, not compressed or strained. And lower down. Take a breath in and a breath out. And then again, stretch out, lifting up and holding here. Try and keep the back of the neck longish so you're not lifting the head too much or dropping the head too much. And lower down. Big breath in, big breath out. Stretch the fingers and toes, gauge your muscles, lift up. So really you should feel the whole back chain of muscles working, really a lot of muscles in your body working here. The more we can even out the work, distribute the work, the healthier it is for our bodies, even though some muscles might have to work a little bit harder in certain poses. Good, and lower down. You had a little bit extra long that time. Last one, stretch out through the fingers and toes. Inhale, lift up. Soften through the neck and shoulders. Good. Exhale, lower down. Bring your hands back by your sides, fingers just below your shoulders. Stretch out through your toes. Press the top of the feet down. A little bit of posterior tilt. Hug the elbows in toward your back and then curl up into your cobra. Take a couple of breaths here, not pushing your shoulders forward and kind of gripping with your neck, but trying to keep the shoulders back. Keep the low back elongated. And slowly lower down. And walk back into child's pose. In child's pose, lift your hips, tuck your toes. We're preparing to come into downward facing dog. So keep the arms strong. Keep the belly lifting away from the floor. So not just sagging, not untoned, but toned. And then grip with the hands. Lift your hips straight up into your downward facing dog. Bring your feet about hip distance apart, or something that feels pretty comfortable for you. And bend the knees about halfway down. And lift them back. And we're just going to go back and forth for a total of 5 times. Keep your hips moving back as you do this. The last one. And then get a nice long stretch into your down dog. Keep the armpits lifting, keep your ribs lifting. And then we'll do some cat-cow waves. So as you inhale, tailbone draws down, bottom of the sacrum draws down, back rounds up, come forward. As you exhale, bottom of the sacrum lifts up, and you glide back. Inhale forward, exhale back. Inhale forward, exhale back. Inhale forward, exhale back. Two more. Inhale forward, exhale back. Inhale forward, exhale back. Come up onto your toes, walk your feet forward. Bring your feet about hip distance apart. Lift and spread your toes and relax the toes down into the mat. Start to sink your hips down and reach your arms forward and up. Utkatasana chair pose. Look down, you should be able to see your toes, so there's a little extra weight in your heels. Maybe sink a little lower as you stretch up through your fingertips. Take an extra breath here and then lower your hands down by your feet, lift your hips up. And just sink your hips and lift the hips back and forth. A couple more times. Then with the hips down, lift up. Your belly reach all the way out through your fingertips. And exhale, hands to the ground. So we're going to come into a squat. So if you want to make your feet a little wider, usually that's easier. So heel toe your feet out and then start to sink the hips. So think of the hips coming down, and you can always place a blanket or something under your heels until you get more used to squatting. And start to roll around. Feeling that flexion in the ankles. And then come to lower your hips to the floor and lower onto your backs. And just take a couple breaths here to let your whole body relax. And bend your knees. Lift your right leg up again. Cross your right ankle above your left knee. Interlace, bring your right hand in between your legs and interlace your fingers on the back of your left thigh. Flex your feet. And then you can either stay here, you can alternate between hugging your left knee in towards your chest a little bit more and letting it relax. So finding some kind of stretch activation here that doesn't feel like too stressed. You don't want a stressful stretch. You want kind of a relaxing stretch. Always seeking that balance of effort and ease. And release your hands out to the side, so I'm keeping my legs crossed in this figure four shape. So my knees are apart from each other. And then you're just going to slowly twist your lower body, bringing your right foot over to the left. And you can take your left palm and press the inside of your right thigh if you like. That might feel good. Or you could hold your ankle. You can turn your head to the right. And just find little movements here that feel good to you. So it might be a little bit of external rotation, squeezing the glute to open that knee a little bit more. Notice where you feel any tightness. Might be to take your hand and create a little space on the front of the hip flexor. It might be just to let your leg rest on your hand. And bring this right hip back down to the floor to bring your legs up. And we'll switch sides. So I have the needle with the left leg, stretching the left hip, left glute. And again, you can begin that gentle pulling your leg in and releasing it. Again, not trying to overdo anything. There's nothing to prove. It's just you listening to your body and honoring what your body's telling you and not demanding it to do something that it's just not ready to do right now. Because when we place that unrealistic demand, our nervous system kicks in and is doing everything it can to prevent us from injuring ourselves. So it's important to listen and just coax the nervous system into relaxing. Release your hands, twist over to your right, keeping that left knee up in the air. And again, here you can palm press to create a little extra stretch and movement this way, or you could hold your ankle. You could pull it in a little bit higher if that feels good. But if you can't truly relax, then you're going too far. You might want to just let that leg rest in on your hand. You're using your arm as like a little bit of a kickstand. You can turn your head away from your knees. And bring your left hip back down, bring your legs up, uncross your legs. Stretch your left leg down on the floor, take your right hand to the outside, your left hand to the outside of your right leg. It could be by your foot, if that's easy for you to reach, or it could be up on your thigh or kind of in the middle of the leg. Stretch your right arm out to the side and slowly start to stretch your right leg over to the left. Try not to move quickly and feel your leg drop, but trying to move nice and slowly. So that you can move with control. Now we're really twisting from the upper back. You can always place some padding underneath your right leg, like a block or a blanket or a pillow. Turn your head to the right and just let your body relax here. You could also try something like you're stretching your hip bone away from your ribs. So stretching your hip bone towards your feet and then pulling it in and stretching it out. So just creating a little movement here. Might feel good to you. And just let it relax again. And to come back to center, think of bringing your hip to the floor, and that'll bring the leg up. So rather than lifting up through your foot that's way away from your body, think of moving from your core and pulling that hip down, letting your leg float up. And slowly release. These are really good stretches for the piriformis. Bring your left leg up, take your right hand to the outside of your left leg. Left hand is reaching out to the side, and then slowly bring your leg across. See if you can do it with control, feeling that twist happening, really focusing on the upper back. And again, you can always prop this up, like I could use a block here. That could be comfortable. Also, the higher your foot is this way, the more of a stretch it is, the lower your foot is, the less of a stretch. So find what works for you. Again, if you want to do a little bit of that hip action, feel free to do that or just stay still. And if you did that hip movement, just make sure you make time just to relax without any movement. Focusing on your breath and that sensation of letting go. And to bring your leg back up, bring that left hip to the floor. Release your leg, lower your leg down. Take a big deep breath in here and a slow exhale. Hug your knees into your chest and just gently rock side to side. You could take one knee in each hand and do circles, bringing the knees in and then out and then away and back into center. And you can reverse that direction. And release your legs, stretch your legs out. Actually, one thing I like to do sometimes is bring your feet back in and lift the hips, do a little bit posterior tilt to the pelvis, and then lower down, stretch your legs out, and maybe even lift the shoulders up a little bit. And think of creating a little extra space between your hips and your shoulders. Again, not overdoing it. Let your palms rest open, your feet flop open. Tap into your breath, and especially on the exhale, maybe even making the exhales a little bit longer than the inhales. Allow your ribs to soften and do any little micro movements that you might need to do so that you can completely relax and let go. Well, thank you for joining me today to focus on our sacred sacrum. And please like this video, subscribe to my channel, pass the word on to your friends. And really, I would love it if you would leave a comment. It's really helpful for me to know what feels good for you, what was helpful to you, any changes that you might have felt, any requests that you might have. Again, thank you so much. From my heart to yours. Namaste.